The road to $10,000 runs through the Granite State. This is round at number 9 on the Nascar iRacing.com Pro Series. Our coverage on LSRTV presented by Double Clutch. Tim Terry and Evan Pasoko here to call all the action for you. New Hampshire Motor Speedway, 150 laps around the Magic Mile, and this is the penultimate round of this series. We're going to crown a champion. Next week, we're going to punch some tickets to the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, but first, it's 150 laps around a grueling short track like New Hampshire. We're going to go down our starting grid because we're getting ready to go racing. Alex Warren is going to start on the pole. The Cody Bias Racing number 82 with a 28-17 to the outside. It's the Tim's Corner Motorsports number 96 and Rich Doucette.
Pick up row 2 on the inside, P3, the number 42, Dylan Duvall, and outside him, the 4 starting position, the 87 of Trey Edson.
Brandon Hawk starts position number 5 into the outside. Last 3 races have gone to Kenny Humpy.
Brad Mahar in the 00, starting 7th, and starting 8th. Points leader, Chris Overland in the 47.
And he can clinch this evening with a 6th place finish. More on that later. Brian Day will start in 9th, and completing your top 10, Justin Trombley from nearby Winter Harbor, Maine.
Chad Lawton in the 26, going to be starting just outside the top 10 and 11th spot, 12th position belonging to the 30 of Robert Hall.
We got Stephen Gilbert starting in 13th as the cars begin to roll off, and then it's Charlie Foster to the outside in the 13th.
Cody Bias in the 27, starting 15th, and the 36 of Justin Bolton starting 16th.
Brian Blackford 17th and Rob Ackley 18th.
EJ Sturgis in 19th, and 20th is Shane Miller.
We got Mitchell Hunt starting in position number 21. The Elliott Henderson Graphics 50 of Alex Scribner starts 22nd.
Landon Harrison, the 89 machine, starting 23rd, 24th, and 51 of Tyler Lawton.
It's Brandon and Brandon in the next row, Hoff on the inside and Schmidt on the outside.
Billy Price starting 27th, and 28th is Brandon Bowie.
Kwame Ajay starts 29th and Jeremy Lukaska in 30th.
Sasha Western, the 31, starting 31st, and 32nd, the 10 of Tom Ustakis.
Completing your field is Ashley Miller and Andrew Fayash III. It's 34 strong, getting ready to take the green flag for 150 laps around the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Glad you could be with us on LSR TV. Once again, our coverage presented by Double Clutch. Win on Monday.com, and somebody's about to win on Tuesday. Alex Warren trying to get to victory lane for the first time this season. He's gone. Green flag flies, and he is on it on this start. Duvall to the inside of Rich Doucette, side by side for second as the GX Gaming number 42 going for the lead here, maybe on his teammate.
Almost got to the inside of Warren up for P1, had to check up on corner exit, and that's going to allow the 36 of Doucette with a run down the back and into 3. Richard Doucette looked for a move on the inside, could not get it done, pushed back a bit. They're side by side behind him. The 53 machine of Brandon Hawk trying to do work on the inside, side by side with the 87 of Edson by the stripe.
What a great qualifying run for Edson in the Sim Chassis number 87 to the outside of Brandon Hawk and the Racer Boost number 53 as they go side by side. And looks like Kenny Humpy trying to make his way through. He's held the hot hand here in the last few races, Evan, as he tries to look for a top 5 spot here. Regardless, he can win out these last 2 races and complete this season on a winning note. if Chris Overland finishes in the top 6 this evening, regardless what happens, Overland's got the championship.
Yeah, definitely. Kenny Humpy in the 58 has been so strong, just moving now into the top 5 in this race. He mentioned he's been so strong the second half of the season. He has gone back to back to back in his last 3 races in victory lane, but getting that streak so late in this season, Chris Overland in the 47 has got such an advantage, and with the misfortunes of Brandon Schmidt last week at Watkins Glen International, Overland, you mentioned, he needs a top 6 finish tonight here at New Hampshire, and he's got that championship locked up right now. He's sitting P7.
Top 10 or so are single file at this point as we work lap number 4 down into corner number 1. Alex Warren has started to walk away from the rest of this field. You got the 42 of Dylan Duval running in position number 2 with the 96 of Rich Doucette in position number 3. And a lot of these guys trying to find some a place to race. Last week we ran Watkins Glen. No cautions at Watkins Glen, and I'm going to touch some wood here because usually we see a few cautions in this series, but right now for the racetrack, 4 laps completed. These guys look like they might be trying to build something on a green flag run.
Yeah, definitely. We got side-by-side back in the pack. Take a look at P20. That's the 57 of PJ Sturgis. He is on the inside right now of the 33. 33, Brian Blackford on the top lane. This whole group here, maybe about 18th on back, have been side-by-side since we went back to the green flag after you touched on all of those guys in the top 10 had singled out at this point. The 57 machine of Sturgis is on the inside lane and has gotten around the 33 and is going to clear him off of turn number 4. So PJ Sturgis now going to advance his position and move up into 19th after getting around Blackford that last time by. They're still side by side behind him, and it's the 89 machine of Landon Harrison trying to make some headway down low.
Landon Harrison has had a pretty solid season in the Sonic number 89 to the inside. He goes trying to pick up a spot on Brian Blackford, and Blackford as well, top 10 this season in the point standings. That's the 33 and 89 going side by side at around position number 20 as they try to figure out who wants to go where. Blackford is going to get the position in the Hammerdown Snow Cone Productions Ford Fusion, and Blackford with that drop, he's 9th in the point standings. That's good enough to lock himself into the series. Landon Harrison led the points earlier this season. He's running 3rd in the standings at this point. Both enough to lock themselves into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. If these next 2 races go good, keep that in mind. They got to finish in the top 20, but they've had pretty stellar seasons so far, just trying to keep it on the blacktop in these last 2 races.
Definitely, for sure. Take a look at everybody inside the top 10 is single file bumper to bumper. Actually, we're going to go looking side by side. That's going to break up. No, they're going to go for it off of 2. It's the 87 machine of Edson. Was looking to get around the 53 of Brandon Hawk, and Hawk on the inside lane just could not, give that opening, and Edson just going to get it done and open up the door for Chris Overland in the 47, and Overland went down low down the back, and now this time coming at a 4 to the 87 is going to protect. So Edson's going to hang on to his position and remain in P6. So Overland finds himself in a side-by-side battle with the 00 Brad Bahar in the 8th position. Overland is trying to get that done in the inside, still side-by-side off the corner, nearly contact down the back.
Down the back straightaway, they go into corner number 3. Overland in the 47, trying to take that position away from the 00 of Brad Mahar. Mahar on the outside trying to take that position away. It looks like Overland, the 00 gets the run off the corner. He'll take the position at the line, and Overland will have to slot back there. And keep in mind, this New Hampshire Motor Speedway on iRacing, that low line hugging around that yellow line, really not the place to be. It looked like Stephen Gilbert back there. A couple of others may have had a moment around Chad Lawton and Charlie Foster as they get everything straightened away. And once again, battle for second heats up. There's action all over this racetrack, Evan. The 58 of Kenny Humpy is at Dylan Duval in 42, and Humpy has, I guess he's flipped the switch because he's up to second place, or looking at second place on Dylan Duval.
Definitely, he's moving up. That 58 machine doing work here in the opening laps. He qualified in 6th, then you mentioned all the way up to 2nd now. Keep in mind, the shortest track that we've been to besides tonight was Richmond. He won that race, so he's got to like these shorter racetracks. He's going to get around Duval. Duval with the run in the corner has to check up, and the 96 of Doucette's going to get into the back of Dylan Duval through 3 and 4. But now down the front straightaway, sole position of 2nd is now belonging to Kenny Humpy. However, while these guys have been doing battle from 2nd on back, Alex Warren, your pole sitter at the 82, is absolutely just checked out on these guys and has a 2.1 second lead over Humpy in 2nd right now up front.
You know, you look at that 96 of Rich Doucette running back there in position number 5. He's a New Hampshire boy. It's a home track for the number 96 team, and he's been around racetracks like Oxford Plains Speedway and the Oxford 250. He knows what a chrome horn is, and you think he just saw it a little bit there on the 42 of Dylan Duval. We have the 4 of Brian Day around, and this might bring out our first caution.
The 04 of Jeremy Lukaska gets turned at a turn number 4. He was side by side with a 10 machine. That was Tom Moustakis through 3 and 4, and 04 got knocked sideways, locked the thing up, nearly hit the pit road wall, took out the cone, and now has to go all the way down the pit lane under pit road speed, and now get back out onto the racetrack. Tough break for Lukaska, not necessarily the greatest qualifying effort for the 04 machine, started in 30th. This is definitely going to put a dampen on that, as now the 58 machine of Kenny Humpy is going to go around him on the outside lane. So the 04 of Lukaska going to lose a lap early here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
Speaking of falling back, we got 2 good battles within the top 10. Chris Overland, your point leader in the 47, is under fire from the 17 of Justin Trombley, and the 53 of Brandon Hawk is looking at 3rd on Dylan Duval in the 42. I think Duval got the wall here about a lap or so ago, Evan, and now that 53 is underneath him. Rich Doucette is there again as well, and he gave the bumper to the 42 a couple laps prior. So 53 and 42, 2 Canadians going side by side. It's Halifax, Nova Scotia on the outside line. Got an Ontario boy on the inside, and Rich Doucette's trying to spoil the party.
Yeah, Rich Doucette's taking a look into the 96 machine behind these guys, watching them do battle and trying to make a calculated move on who he thinks is going to make the pass and try to stick with them. You see the 04 machine, that's lap traffic up in front of them that we just mentioned. Jeremy Lukaska having those issues, but the 53 and the 42 are still side by side, door to door down the back straightaway. Now we're going to go into turn number 3 and see what Brandon Hawk can do. You do not want to come up on this lap traffic too wide. That can get real hairy. 53 pulls away in corner entry. Can he get it on the exit? He is. And the 53 machine of Brandon Hawk going to move now up to position number 3, which leaves Dylan Duval now battling with that 96 of Richard Doucette, who was watching in the wings, now on the inside in 1 and 2.
Started the point a little bit earlier as the 96 and 42 go side by side. The line here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, not around that yellow line, at least in iRacing. On this iRacing motorsport simulation, it's a little bit up the racetrack. You see the 42 as the 53 may have got a little too far out of the groove. Almost the 42 had a little bit of contact, but you see the groove. It's not down on that inside line. It's a couple of grooves up as these guys, Duval trying to get that run. Ooh. Rich Doucette almost got into him. He's going to get to the inside once again. The 42 going to try to clear the 96 off the corner here and take the position. They are still side by side, and they're side by side behind them, as well as the 87 and 00 are going to go at it for the spot behind and try to get into this party. And it looks like lap traffic. Lukaska trying to mix it up here as well, as Brandon Hawk just got past him.
Yeah, the 42 of Duval braked a little early going into turn number 3, allowing the 96 of Doucette to take position, and then Duval pulled in behind him. He must have seen the 87 machine of Trey Edson coming up behind him and knew that he didn't want to get trapped on the high side and not allow the 87 to get to the inside, because the 00 of Brad Mahar was just behind them, so he could have easily gotten freight trained. So Dylan Duval not favoring the top lane at this point. You talk about the racing group being a little bit up. You see these guys trying to negotiate their way around the 04 of Lukaska, this time at a turn number 4. Meanwhile, a battle you could say is picking up front, because keep in mind when Kenny Humpy went all the way from starting this race up in the 6th spot, got up to 2nd in the opening laps, and once he got there, he was 2 seconds off of Alex Warren. It's now been cut down to 1.3 second of a distance between positions number 1 and 2, and since then, Humpy has pulled about 2 seconds away from the car in P3. That's the 53 of Brandon Hawk, so Kenny Humpy slowly chipping away at the lead of Alex Warren up front.
Yeah, for example, Alex Warren last time by 29.60. For Kenny Humpy, it was a 29.50, and for Brandon Hawk, it was a 29.56, as he finally gets a little bit of clean air as Lukaska is going backwards on the outside line around the 6th, 7th, 8th place drivers right now. So Kenny Humpy a little bit better, and he's been consistent in these runs that he's had. He continues to click off those laps, and you see him closing in on the 82 of Alex Warren on this run, and it's 1.1 seconds now between himself and the 82 car. And Alex Warren, he's a former Pro Series champion 2 seasons ago, won that Pro Series championship, and he's one of those drivers, Evan, that's barely above the bubble when it comes to the points. He's 15th in the points right now. A run here it's not going to lock him in to the series, or it might, but I don't think it's going to lock him in, but it's going to solidify that spot, which means he'll have to have a decent run compared to having to run up front next week at the finale.
Definitely not a lot of points of cushion there. You talk about Alex Warren being the Pro Series champion 2 years ago, our current championship leader, Chris Overland. Remember, one of the stories we got to keep an eye on tonight is if he finishes 6th position or better, he is securing that championship here for this Pro Series. Right now, he's sitting P8 after starting in 8th, so he worked up a little bit at the beginning of the race. He's dropped back to 8th as the 00 of Mahar has gone around him. Meanwhile, Kenny Humpy continuing to close in on Warren. Humpy in the 58 machine, sitting in 2nd, closing in on Alex Warren in the 82. And you got to look at the contrast. The first few races we saw no repeat winners. At Texas, it was Josh Berry. Phoenix, it was Justin Bolton. Robert Hall took it at Homestead. John Gorlinski at Daytona. Chris Overland at Pocono. And since then, it's been Kenny Humpy at Michigan, Richmond, and Watkins Glen. And he is making a solid charge at the front here at New Hampshire. So that whole 58 team has really kicked it up here in the second half of the season, as now Humpy can see the 82 getting a lot closer in front of him through that windshield, now merely 7/10 of a second off the back bumper of P1.
And keep in mind, with Kenny Humpy in the number 58, there was 2 races at the start of this season that he was out of the race by lap 5. There was 1 lap 1 wreck. There was one, I believe it was lap 3 or 4, that he had an incident, and he was driving hard trying to get to the front of the field to get that track position, and there was a little bit of contact. He ended up in the fence, and he was out of the race before lap 5. It's just it's a tale of 2 seasons sort of thing. You start off slow, and then you really pick it up at the end of the year trying to pour it on and get a championship. Keep in mind, though, out of these 10 races, you're allowed 1 drop race. You're allowed to drop your worst race or your worst finish in this season. Not saying that helped Chris Overland, but it did help Kenny Humpy, because Kenny Humpy's worst race is a 0-point race compared to Chris Overland's 13 points for his worst race of the season. And now Humpy within 3 car lengths of Alex Warren, and this is about to get exciting up in front for the lead. And actually, Brandon Hawk has closed in a little bit. I believe it was 3 seconds or so. Brandon Hawk now 2.9 behind the number 82 of Alex Warren. So it looks like Warren and Hawk are about the same pace. Kenny Humpy right now in a different zip code as he closes in on the 82.
Hey, you mentioned the lap times. Alex Warren just ran a 29.78, and Kenny Humpy with a 29.60 in the 58 machine. So he's coming, and no doubt he's going to get the lead here unless we have a caution in these next few laps, because that 58 machine is flying. Keep an eye, though, on Brandon Hawk. Hawk ran a lap time about 1/10, maybe 100th of a second faster than Humpy the last time by. Now he has a lot more time to make up, himself being 2.7 seconds back from Warren, making it about 2.1 seconds now off the back bumper of Humpy, as Humpy is there now at the back bumper, the 82 of Alex Warren this time, coming out of turn number 2. Just going to look to try to see when he's going to make his move as he is there. 58's going to have to decide on if he wants to go high or low and get this thing done. As he gets the run in the middle of the corner, has to check up as the 82 of Warren comes down a bit, and Warren's going to lead it once again, this time by the stripe, as they take lap number 30 of 150.
It's just a matter of when he makes that move to try to get past the 82 of Alex Warren. Keep in mind, if Kenny Humpy wants any sort of chance at winning this championship, he's got to get past Alex Warren. He's got to lead the most laps this evening, and then he has to hope for Chris Overland to have some tough luck. So it's in Humpy's hands, but then again, it's not in Humpy's hands if he's looking to take away this championship, as he looks to the inside of Warren at a corner number 4. A little slide from the NRT servers, number 58. About a car length or so now between your top 2 drivers. Brandon Hawk is closed in to 2.5 seconds behind, so he's closed in about 0.4 of a second in the last 3 laps or so as these guys continue to go at it. And you can see it. The 82 of Alex Warren, a little bit slower than that 58, at least at this stage of the race, as Kenny Humpy all over the back bumper, the 82 of Alex Warren. You'd have to believe if this thing comes down to a long run at the end of the race, Kenny Humpy is going to be the driver to beat by the looks of it here, because I don't think anybody has anything for him in the other 33 cars.
The reason Brandon Hawk is making up so much distance as he knocks another 10th off of that gap, now 2.2 seconds back from the lead battle, is because right now Kenny Humpy is essentially being held up by Alex Warren. Not a lot, but obviously the 58 machine is faster than the 82, and it looks like he's very strong in the middle of the corner where the 82 is not. You see the 58 try to look to the inside, try to get something done, gets a little bit of a run, and he could maybe look to the inside this time. Not quite having it. It's going to stick the nose out there into turn one. He's going to think about it. He's going to make Alex Warren's decision for him, give him that spot, and trying to get the nose there on the inside, side by side, coming out of turn number 2. And now it's the battle for the lead. Is almost getting into the left rear of Warren. Was Humpy there on the inside lane, but we're going to go side by side for P1 through 3 and 4.
Humpy to the inside. Alex Warren gives him a lot of room, goes to the outside, and maybe a little bit out of that quote-unquote groove in the middle of this racetrack. It's going to be Alex Warren leading this lap, but here comes Kenny Humpy to the inside. He gets a good run here and through the corner. He may be able to clear him on the back straightaway, side by side, as Alex Warren trying to hold on to the lead. I don't think he's going to do it. He didn't get that run off corner number 2. It's Humpy by a half car length down into corner number 3. He's going to drive it in and possibly drive away. Here is Warren on the outside. He wasn't completely clear, was Humpy. He's going to be now, though. The 58 of Humpy. Little slide. The 82 still there. Going to be Humpy leading that lap. He should be able to clear him here.
82 of Warren's going to check up as the 58 of Humpy slides way up the racetrack, throwing it down in there to turn number 1. But now Kenny Humpy in the 58 has gotten to P1 and has opened up about a 2-car length gap over Warren in second. Warren was not giving up there, and then when they came into turn number 4, the 58 of Humpy was clearing. The 82 kind of got a run out of nowhere, and they nearly got hooked up on that corner exit. And Alex Warren evidently going to let Kenny Humpy get that spot and not force the issue and look for a crossover at this point in the race. Again, the race still young, currently working lap 36 of 150 at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Humpy sitting P1, and there you see starting to pull away from Alex Warren in the 82. So just so fast right now on the racetrack is the number 58. Meanwhile, Brandon Hawk in the 53 machine, all of a sudden, is only 1.1 seconds back in the 3rd position in the 53. Remember, just laps ago, he was 2 seconds back, so I wouldn't be surprised if he chases down Alex Warren in these next few laps as well.
You know, you look at the last 2 laps for Kenny Humpy and Brandon Hawk. Hawk was about 100th quicker the last lap than Kenny Humpy, and 0.2 quicker than Alex Warren in the 82. You'd have to believe that maybe Alex Warren may have burned his stuff up in front of the field, either pulling away from the field or battling side by side with Kenny Humpy. You'd have to believe the 82 may have used up a little bit of his stuff to try to keep in front of or in the same area as Kenny Humpy. Rich Doucette has found his way to 4th, and he's all by himself in 4th in the 96 car right now, because he's got a long way to go to catch the next driver, and the next driver for position is about a half straightaway behind. And you look at the battle behind the 42 of Dylan Duval in 5th. It's Chris Overland in the number 47 in that magic number, P6. For the 47 of Chris Overland, he had to do some work, though, to pass Justin Trombley, Trey Edson, and Chad Lawton in the cars behind him. As we got one car nearly up in the fence. Is that Trey Edson maybe in the 87? Up in the outside groove, and no, that's Brad Mahar in the 00, as he's still trying to dodge bullets back there.
Yeah, he's gone from 7th now to 20th, so in these last few laps, obviously that incident is what put the nail in the coffin there, and he lost a bunch of spots, but he's been slowly dropping back these last few laps. He's shaking the car to 2, trying to get some control of that thing. You talk about the battle of his involving championship point leader, Chris Overland, who's now in lucky number position 6. In the 47, Justin Trombley in the 17 machine got around the 87 of Edson. Edson was side by side with Overland through 3 and 4 about 2-3 laps ago, and Overland was almost clear at a 4, and Edson kind of let up a little bit to allow Overland in line, and evidently Justin Trombley kind of pounced on that, and that's why he got around Edson. So Edson pays for being courteous on a racetrack, and that's why he has now found himself in 8th, and Trombley is in 7th in the 17 machine on the back bumper of Overland, but Overland is going to be challenging real here soon on the 42 of Dylan Duval, who now finds himself in 5th after starting inside the top 3. He is under attack as Overland tries to find his way around on the back bumper off 2.
And it's just a matter of how aggressive you get right now. This race has gone 41 laps green so far. We're almost 1/3 distance in this race as Overland looks underneath the 42 at Dylan Duval for the position. If you're Dylan Duval, you're 30th in the point standings right now, and you're barely in 30th. You're trying to move up the standings a little bit. A couple of drivers suspended in the series, not here this week, trying to capitalize on that. But the 42 with Dylan Duval, top 30 get in, or at least retain their pro license. 21st to 30th in this series retain their pro license. They don't have to go through the road to pro, which is going to be a long ordeal next season. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But you really don't want to go back through that the road to pro series, because it's going to be so unpredictable at this point. And I talked to Duval earlier in the week, and he said he really wants to get in to the top 20 to get that NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship license, but at least stay in the top 30, as he's got a battle behind him as he looks in the rearview mirror and sees Justin Trombley trying to make a move on the 47 of Chris Overland for the position. And Justin Trombley, as we mentioned, home track boy, New England boy, he likes short tracks. This might be something to watch this evening for Justin Trombley. You'd have to believe he's got at least a top 5 run here tonight.
Definitely on the inside of Overland, this time through 3 and 4. Overland with a great run off the corner. He's going to clear that 17 of Trombley with ease. Just some updates on some drivers. Charlie Foster in the 13. He's been out of the race for about 32 laps after blowing an engine on lap number 10. Shane Miller, 30 laps down, is on the pit lane and now back behind the wall, so trouble for the 71 machine. 30 laps down. Those are positions 33 and 34th. Only the two only retirees so far in this race. Brandon Hoff in 32nd in the 23 is 4 laps down, and then Lukaska and the 04 after getting spun out of the pit lane early in the going is 31st, 1 lap down, which leaves 30 drivers on the lead lap at this point in the race, as Chris Overland continuing to try to battle or hang on to his position, which is 6th, but evidently trying to move up a spot. Now gets a great run on Duval down the back straightaway. He's going to look to the inside now, going into 3. Duval's going to let him go on by, so Chris Overland now going to move up to position number 5.
And you don't want to lose touch with those leaders up in front. I'm sure that's what Chris Overland is thinking too. And speaking about leaders, Alex Warren in 82 is under fire from Brandon Hawk in 53. As they go down the back straightaway, Brandon Hawk has caught the 82 of Warren. And looks like he's keeping pace with Kenny Humpy. But if he wants to continue to keep pace with Kenny Humpy, he's got to put that 82 car behind him, because the 82 car is just a little bit slower right now than Kenny Humpy and Brandon Hawk. And Rich Doucette's about 3 seconds or so behind this battle, so if Alex Warren does get past, he still has a little bit of room to maneuver to try to keep ahead of those cars behind him. As it looks like that battle that was with Chris Overland, it looks like it's opened up the door as well for Justin Trombley in 17, because 17 just made his way past Dylan Duval in the 42. So battles all over this racetrack right now as we continue green. Lap 47 comes to a close here as Kenny Humpy continues to lead at New Hampshire.
Yeah, and Lawton might be the next one to get around Dylan Duval. Duval in the 42, sitting P7, has Chad Lawton about a car length off his back mover, this time out of 4 and down the front straightaway. Duval, after since getting passed by Overland, has dropped from 5th to 7th. Remember, he started in the top 3, was the 42 of Duval, and looked strong in the opening laps, but similar to Alex Warren in the 82, starting to fall back now. The 26 of Lawton to the inside, down the back into 3.
Down into corner number 3, Chris Overland trying to keep that position from Justin Trombley. They pull away a little bit from 26 of Chad Lawton, and Dylan Duval behind him now in the number 42 car. And I talked to competition director James Pileski from Cody Bias Racing, the 42 car, the 82 car, the 27, the 51, all on the same team. And I asked James, I said, what do you expect into the race? He said, Warren's going to run well. I would be disappointed if Dylan Duval did not get a top 5 finish, though, with the way he's been running. But looks like right now the short run is what's on that number 42, because the long run not working out for that team. As he is just in front of a battle between 5'7" of PJ Sturgis and the 87 of Trey Edson side by side, as Edson tries to get a good run here. He slides the car a little bit going into corner number 1, going to open the door for the 57 on the inside of Sturgis. Another one of those New England boys looking to have a good run here this evening at his home track as they continue to go toe-to-toe down the back straightaway.
It's the 57 of PJ Sturgis who is on the attack here and going into 3 on the inside of the 87 of Trey Edson. Can't quite get clear. The 87 going to pull back up to his door in the middle of the corner, but coming off, it's going to be the 57 of Sturgis pushing up. He's going to have the advantage this time by the stripe. Sturgis is the one that's been trying to make the move for this spot. Edson, who was sitting in 9th, opened up the door for Sturgis, and Sturgis jumped there to the inside lane going into turn number 1 about 2-3 laps ago, and that's where they run right now, and they're behind the 42 Duval, who seems to be slowly slipping away as the laps continue to tick off now, as the 57 machine of PJ Sturgis is going to get around and clear the 87 of Edson. Edson with a little bit of a run coming out of turn number 4. Not enough to challenge for a crossover down the front straightaway. So PJ Sturgis going to hang on for now and set his sights on the back bumper of the 42 machine. You talk about laps knocked off. Currently working lap number 52 are the leaders under the green flag conditions, which means we are past the 1/3 mark in this race.
And these guys are continuing to go at it. I see the 30 of Robert Hall back here going at it with, I believe that may be Trey Edson in the 87 on the outside as they get a little bit close with Justin Bolton. Mitchell Hunt trying to make his way through the field, and Rob Ackley in this little battle as well, as Brandon Hawk takes position number 2 away from Alex Warren. Saw that in the corner of my eye, so he'll move up and continue to push forward through this field. And back here in this battle we talked about, Evan, the 19 of Mitchell Hunt trying to push his way through the front of the field. There's one driver at the start of the season that we thought was going to be a contender each and every week, and he's had his flashes of being up front in the RealLucky.com number 19, but now running in position number 13 and almost got the boot from Rob Ackley in the 22 at a corner number 4. He sits 5th place in the point standings coming in, actually tied for 4th when it comes to it. He has a good chance at taking 2nd in the standings, but I'm sure these last couple of weeks not the way that he wanted to go. I'm sure he wanted to be maybe in 2nd place or with that huge lead in first when it comes to the point standings.
The slip and slide continues for Dylan Duval in the 42, now back to P9 as PJ Sturgis in the 57 machine has gotten around him just laps after getting around Trey Edson. Edson actually has been passed by both Robert Hall and Justin Bolton, so Edson in the 87 dropping back to 12th. And Duval, who does not have the speed here late in this green flag run, has the 30 now of Hall on his back bumper down the back straightaway, and going into 3, the 30 is going to look to the inside. Can't quite get there this time through. The 36 of Justin Bolton waiting in the wings, watching this battle up in front. So Duval trying to hang on here as those tires continue to get wear on him, and not the speed that he had in those opening laps for sure, as the slide continues all the way back from 3rd, and now he is in 9th position, and the 30 machine knocking on the door through 1 and 2. However, Duval with a good corner exit is going to open up about a car or 2 length lead down the back into 3.
Oh boy, 3 wide coming off of corner number 2, the 33 of 4 and 87. As the 87 goes backwards, the 4 is going to thread the needle. Oh boy, Brian Day just picked up 3 spots on that lap, and that was something. He made a couple of 3 wide moves there in the double clutch number 4 to pick up those spots. Going to move Brian Blackford and Landon Harrison up a couple spots as well. And another driver on that slide, you mentioned Trey Edson in the 87. It seems like a lot of these drivers, Evan, are fighting a loose condition at this point. Seeing a lot of drivers slide into the corner and a little bit of a slide off the corner for a lot of these drivers as well. Guys like the 4, the 33, the 89, starting to move up from the back of the pack, having a little bit better long run car. Brandon Hawk being one of those as well. Kenny Humpy having a long run car. Alex Warren on the opposite end of it. Dylan Duval, we said those guys are on the same team. Maybe those Cody Bias racing cars are set up for a short run because they're falling off the pace, and they're falling off the pace big time. Kenny Humpy, the last lap by, or this lap by, was a 29.82. Brandon Hawk at a 29.72, so 1/10 quicker for the 53 than the leader. Alex Warren at a 29.95. So that just goes to show how the 82 has fallen off the pace here in the first run of this race. Rich Doucette at a 29.77 though last lap by, so Doucette catching Alex Warren, and the 96 is going to look at a top 3 run here, I would say probably within the next 10 laps or so if this thing stays green.
The battle is on for 9th as the 30 machine of Robert Hall has been on the inside of Dylan Duval for the last lap and a half, but he's going to lose it down the back. And now as we work through 3 and 4 and out of quarter number 4 down the front straightaway, Dylan Duval in the 42 continuing to protect for P9 as he holds off the 30 machine of Robert Hall. Hall has Justin Bolton right behind them. Mitchell Hunts are also there in the 19 machine. So Dylan Duval is definitely under pressure. He was able to hold off the 30 that last time when the 30 made an effort to the inside. 30 is going to go to the inside, blocks the 36 of Bolton's efforts to get around him, and the 30 can't get to the inside of Duval before the corner, but he's right in that left rear through the middle of the corner and coming up looking for a run. Duval still hanging on to 9th.
As they continue to battle the 42 of Duval, leading this train, the 30 of Robert Hall right behind him, the veteran of the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, peeking the nose underneath the number 42, down the back straightaway, the 36 trying to hold off the 19 of Mitchell Hunt as they continue to go at it for the spot. And this is one of the closest battles we've seen all night long of Rob Ackley in the number 22 trying to make his way back into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. 42 of Duval up on the outside groove, and I don't know if he got the fence or not, but he came pretty close if he didn't. The 30 of Robert Hall is going to make the move. The 36 of Justin Bolton going to make the move, and can Mitchell Hunt get up here in time in order to make the move in the 42? I think he's going to have the line to the inside.
The 30's around, the 36 is around him, and now the 19 of Mitchell Hunt is trying to do the same as Duval, hanging on for dear life on the top lane, and it almost looked like the 30 of Robert Hall ushered him out of the way, but Duval just got loose at a 4 that last time around and just scraped that outside wall, lost a little bit of paint there coming out the corner as some electrical issues for the 36 of Justin Bolton in front of these guys, having a little bit of blinking problems in front of the battle, but nonetheless the 19 of Mitchell Hunt has gone around Dylan Duval, and Duval has some more company. The 22 of Rob Ackley's on the inside lane at his quarter panel, drives it and almost makes contact now, and off the corner the 22 is going to get a great run and pick up another spot. So Dylan Duval in the 42 has now dropped all the way back to P13.
His teammate Alex Warren in the 82 just lost position number 3 to Rich Doucette as the 4 of Brian Day looks at the 42 of Dylan Duval for position number 13. Was talking to some of these teams. The majority of these teams that I'm talking to, Evan, say that they can make it to 75 if they save a little bit of fuel, or vice versa. Get as much as you can out of this run and then save a little bit in the second half of the race, of course, if this thing stays green the rest of the way. And the number 89 of Landon Harrison, who's actually in this little battle here, 4 and 42 going at it. Landon Harrison sits 2 cars behind. He told his crew that the car is driving like a melted Barbie doll. I don't know exactly what a melted Barbie doll drives like, but he's back there in position number 16, so I guess it's not too bad of a drive.
Yeah, definitely. I guess we'll just relate it to what the car is doing and move on from there. The 89 of Landon Harrison, you mentioned running 16th. He's watching the side-by-side battle in front of him as the Ford of Day has gotten around Duval, and now it's the 33 of Brian Blackford on the inside lane trying to get around Dylan Duval as well. That's the battle for 14th place, and the 33 is going to come up successful at a quarter number 2. Duval's going to go to the inside lane, pull back up in line, and continue to try to salvage what he can as the laps continue to wind down, and the 42 continues to drop back because the 89 machine of Landon Harrison is on his back bumper, and I'm sure we'll be knocking on that door in not too many laps from this point. A little bit of a battle or challenge, you could say, going on inside of this top 10, and the 22 of Rob Ackley just got sideways out of the corner. He was trying to get up on the back bumper of Mitchell Hunt, so Ackley in the 22 machine through turn number 2, trying to get something extra to get up to the back bumper of Mitchell Hunt, kick that thing sideways. He's able to keep it pointed straight and on track there, the 22 running P12.
One thing we may have missed was the 17 of Justin Trombley getting past the 47 of Chris Overland. They did make some moves earlier, but the 17 has got past the 47 to move Justin Trombley into position number 5, and Overland back to that magic number in position number 6 with Chad Lawton, PJ Sturgis, Bolton, and Hall completing your top 10 at this point. And for the most part, everybody is single file within the top 10. A couple of close battles in between there. I see Landon Harrison trying to make the move on the 42 of Dylan Duval as they go side by side for the position, and the GX Gaming 42 to the outside. Got his teammate there as well, Cody Bias, in the number 27 trying to go to the outside of Landon Harrison in the 89. And as they continue to battle, it closes in T-Loff in the number 51 and Trey Edson in the number 87. So it looks like those guys that started in the top 10 that had that slide to the back, with the exception of Alex Warren, you see Dylan Duval and the 87 of Trey Edson, looks like they found each other back there just outside the top 15.
Yeah, a lot of battling going on between this back half of the top 10 positions. 10th through 20th are really not all that separated. The 89 machine of Landon Harrison is now on the inside of the 27 of Cody Bias. Bias on the outside lane trying to make that pass on Harrison, and this time coming off the corner is going to get it done. So move that number 27 machine of Cody Bias around Landon Harrison, and Harrison now under some fire from the driver of the 51 machine. That's Tyler Laughlin right behind them. This battle low going on For around 17th, they're going to remain side by side off the corner and down the front straightaway, but it's a whole different picture up inside this top 5. Race leader Kenny Humpy in the 58 has about a 1.4 second lead over Brandon Hawk. Now, about 20 laps or so ago, that was 1.8 seconds, so Hawk may be slowly trying to close the gap for that race lead, but then it's about 6 seconds between P2 being Hawk and third spot belonging to the 96 of Doucette as Harrison in the number 89 machine in 17th, continuing to go at it with the driver of that number 87 on the top lane, Trey Edson. Edson has had some struggles here in the second half, or pretty much after lap 40. Remember, he qualified in 4th position and was up there battling with PJ Sturgis at one point, and Edson now finds himself way back in the 19th spot.
And that lead keeps fluctuating at this point. Kenny Humpy and Brandon Hawk, it'll be 1/10 one way and then 1/10 the other way. It's about 1.4, 1.5-ish seconds thereabouts between those two drivers as we close in on the halfway point. Here comes Brandon Hawk on the pit road, 53 car. Gonna head to pit road here and take second place onto the pit road. And I was about to say, we're coming up on the halfway point of this race. 74 laps on the board right now, 73 completed as Brandon Hawk makes his stop. Mitchell Hunt was on pit road as well. Rich Doucette is on pit road at this point in the 96 as well. So there's drivers starting to make that stop. And Evan, you'd have to believe if this thing does go green the rest of the way, these guys that are pitting now are going to have to conserve a little bit more.
It's going to be race leader, the 58 of Kenny Humpy, going to come down the pit lane this time by and going to relinquish that number 1 spot to Alex Warren in the 82 as Warren comes by the stripe this time by and assumes the race lead as Kenny Humpy is going to come into his pit stall. And let's take a look at what our race leader is going to do. Nearly overshoots the stall, but it's going to keep it in the box. Most likely going to be a 4-tire stop and fuel. The right side is up and done. Track going over on the left-hand side, so 4 tires. I'm going to fill that thing full of fuel for your race leader in the 58 of Kenny Humpy. A solid stop. One thing that these guys don't need to account for is any sort of overtime. They don't need to worry about a green-white checker to put a couple more laps of fuel into that thing. You mentioned he came down on lap 74, so that's 1 lap short of the halfway point. So coming down now, you might have to conserve a little bit. And coming down to the end of the race, if we have any cautions, that probably going to eliminate that, save some fuel and be ready to go. But you might have slightly different in tires depending on how long some of these guys stay out, but a lot of the field is down the pit lane and working their way back out as green flag pit stops in full swing.
Overland on pit road, your point leader, the 47. He made a ton of time on Alex Warren coming onto pit road on the entry. We'll see what he can do on the exit as the 82 is down and away here. He did not lead that lap on the exchange of green flag pit stops. Kenny Humpy's box just after the start finish line. So Humpy led a lap, Warren did not. You might think, why is that important if it comes down to the most laps led award? Warren is on that bubble around the 15th, 20th place position in points. That could mean a lot when it comes to it at the end of the day. Justin Bolton led a lap under the exchange of green flag pit stops. Now Rob Ackley is your leader, and he will come down to pit road in the number 22 car. So this should put us through the cycle of green flag pit stops as the 22 car will work his way down pit road and head to the attention of his crew in the Nick Del Campo Designs 22. He will stop in his box here, and next time by we should be back to Kenny Humpy leading, and it is about a second or so, or 1.2 seconds between himself and Brandon Hawk. So it looks like Hawk shaved off another 2/10 on that pit stop.
It definitely Kenny Humpy currently being shown in position number 2. However, Rob Ackley down the pit lane, relinquishing that race lead, and actually on the exit of pit lane right now after his stop. So the 58 of Kenny Humpy going to come up out of turn number 4, and this time by the stripe. He's trying to work his way around, and he is now back again and assumed the number 1 spot. You talked about Brandon Hawk, about a couple car lengths behind him. It's officially 1.1 seconds back from the 58 is the 53 of Hawk. So remember, Kenny Humpy had a solid car on the start of the race and in the long run. Didn't really fade or wasn't really slow at the start and then picked it up later. Had a pretty solid car all night long. So Brandon Hawk, after getting those extra 3/10, going from about 1.4 to 1.1 seconds, and through that exchange of green flag pit stops, really needs to capitalize on Kenny Humpy here. However, Humpy going to knock off another 10th and open up that lead to 1.2 seconds this time by.
And now you have a battle behind your leader for the free pass slot. It is Brandon Schmidt, Ashley Miller, and Tom Moustakas, 3, 7, and 10, going at it for the free pass slot right now. Brandon Hawk, I hate to be him because he's got to navigate these 3 cars that are going for that free pass position. Should the caution flag come out, that'll be the first driver 1 lap down, and he'll end up taking away the wave by Brandon Schmidt in the number 3. Currently occupying that spot is Ashley Miller, and Tom Moustakas fall off the pace a little bit. And now Brandon Hawk's going to try to navigate his way around. And you mentioned it, Rich Doucette 7 seconds behind. Justin Trombley 10 seconds behind your leader. PJ Sturgis 12.3 seconds behind and being chased down by Chris Overland in the number 47 car. So there's some drivers that were on the move on that one. Some of them hit their marks and some of them did not. Alex Warren fell back to 7th place on the exchange of pit stops. Brian Day moved up to position number 10. There's a couple of guys that were moving on that exchange of green flag pit stops. And now the question is, Evan, how much do you conserve? And those drivers that were out there for those couple of extra laps, I'm sure they conserved a little bit to get to lap 75. The question is, what's the strategy now? Does a caution flag come out? This second half of the race going to be really intriguing here.
Yeah, definitely, and all eyes remain kind of fixated on the 47 machine of Chris Overland. Again, the whole story, obviously going to try to get into the top 20, and if not the top 30, to be able to qualify into each race for this upcoming NASCAR World Championships. But Overland, again, with a top 6 finish tonight, can lock up that Pro Series title for this campaign, and he's running in 6th right now. He's looking like he might want to challenge for 5th with the 57 machine of PJ Sturgis. He's only about 1 or 2 car lengths off of his back bumper this time at a turn number 4. Sturgis with a good corner exit and going to open up a little bit more time over Overland, and Overland has to keep an eye on the guy behind him. The 82 of Alex Warren is about 2 seconds back, or 1.7 seconds off of his bumper. So right now Chris Overland really just needs to ride along, and it looks like he's going to get around on the outside of PJ Sturgis, this time going into 3. So Chris Overland's doing what he needs to do as he moves up to P5.
And Overland has been smart this season, very consistent in the number 47 car, and that's what some of the other drivers this season are really lacking, is that consistency to stay up front, be there at the end of the race. And really, Overland only had 1 bad race at the start of the season, a 13-point race, and that's his drop currently in this season. And I believe that maybe the 2nd or 3rd biggest drop out of everybody this season. There's a 14-point drop for Brandon Schmidt. I believe Blackford's is 18, and maybe Brandon Hoff back there, I believe, has a 15-point drop. So that tells you something, that his worst race is a 13-point drop. There's only 3 or 4 others that have had a worse race, or a better worse race. But keep in mind, those guys that are back behind him, he's had better worse races, but they have more less consistent races than Chris Overland, put it that way, to try to not to confuse everybody that's out there. And I know I'm rambling on a little bit, but nevertheless, Kenny Humpy, Brandon Hawk, it's now 1.8 seconds, so it looks like Humpy's turned up the wick a little bit here. That and the 53 being maybe a little bit cautious, trying to tiptoe through some of that traffic there. Ashley Miller is behind the 53, but now the 10, or check that, yeah, the 10 and the 3 try to pull away a little bit there from the rest there. Check that, that's Brandon Hoff in the 23 and 3. There's all kinds of black cars out there, Evan, but it looks like the 53 may have backed up his pace a little bit. Maybe he's trying to think long run here. Maybe he's conserving a little bit of fuel. There could be a couple of strategies flowing through there.
He did hit the pit lane in 1 lap before Kenny Humpy did, so it was Brandon Hawk at a 53 that kind of kicked off those green flag pit stops. But I just don't think that his car is as strong as Kenny Humpy's at this point in the race. Now, if we go green flag all the way to the finish and the tire scenario kind of ends up the same as we pitted pretty much at the halfway point in this race, then I think he's going to have a shot at it when it comes down to it. You got to take a look at Kenny Humpy. Remember, he started in 6th, was up to the lead, and just kind of took off from everybody. A little bit of a different story when you take a look at Brandon Hawk. Brandon Hawk qualified in 5th, kind of dabbed around a little bit there in the top 5, and once we started to knock off laps, once we got to lap, 40 and then 50 and 60, that's when he started to really move up and get to 2nd and then slowly chip away from Warren. But by the time he started chipping away, or rather chip away from Kenny Humpy, but by the time he started to chip away from Humpy's lead in P1, Humpy had opened up a gap of almost 3 seconds between him and that second place car. So Hawk just needs to keep Humpy within range. I think Humpy has a stronger car here in the opening laps of this next little green flag run that these guys have with the fresh tires and packed full of fuel. So right now only running 1.6 seconds behind Kenny Humpy. If it kind of plays out the way it did last time and Hawk at a 53 machine starts to really pick it up here in the closing laps, he might have a shot at Kenny Humpy if he keeps him in range.
No caution, but Mitchell Hunt has hit the wall in 1 and 2. The 19 car took a little slide all by himself into corner number 1, and he hit the wall a ton with the right-hand side of the RealLucky.com number 19. And no caution, but close call for a lot of those guys out back. Had to check up a little bit, and Mitchell Hunt will continue to soldier on here. But Evan, that's not a place you want to hit the car, especially on the rear end. You can see he's severely off the pace. The 51 is making the move underneath. I believe Duval is next up on the list, Trey Edson, Landon Harrison. And these are lead lap cars. These are positions for the 19 that he is losing right now. He's back to 15th right now in the 19 car, and 16th goes by there, 17th, 18th, and here comes 19th, Cody Bias in the 27 car. Mitchell Hunt, tough break for the 19. We mentioned him off the top of the show, running in 5th in points, and you can see it there. That's a hard hit in 1 and 2.
Yeah, definitely, and the right side of the race car's torn off, and he was having a solid race. He just keeps bouncing off the walls. That car just does not turn. He's got to stay off the gas pretty much through the entire corner and ends up hitting the wall on corner exit. He's trying to get down to the apron this time by and going to come down to the pit lane is that Real Lucky Chevrolet of Mitchell Hunt as he nearly spins it trying to get down pit road. So that 19 severely torn up. I took a look and you guys saw it there on the replay. Just kind of broke sideways in the corner and put it in the wall, and he was able to point it the right direction. He did not spin, didn't collect anybody else, so no caution going to fly on the racetrack. But that 19 machine is torn up, and they're going to push that thing behind the wall. I believe Mitchell Hunt's night is going to come to an abrupt ending after running so good up there inside that top 10.
And Mitchell Hunt down on pit road, and the one thing that if you listen to that replay a little bit, he could have very well been clutching a little bit, trying to save a little bit of fuel going into the corner. And this is that time of the race, the second half of the race. You got to make sure that you are good to go at the end of the race if this thing does stay green to the end. And we've been 94 laps so far, consecutive green, and that was almost that moment that brought out the caution. You don't want to be that guy that wants to bring out that yellow flag and bunch this field back up, because we've seen it before when these guys get tucked up tight together. Well, there could lead to a couple of cautions. We've seen it at the start of the season where we had a green flag run in the middle of a race, and then first half of the race and the second half of the race or the end of the race, there's all kinds of cautions. So these guys don't want to be that guy, quote unquote that guy, to bring out that caution flag to really change complexity of the race. But now we are in that strategy where these guys do have to save a little bit of fuel. Alex Warren closing in on Chris Overland, 47, about to be under fire from the 82 of Alex Warren.
And within a blink of an eye, Brandon Hawk has lost touch with this race. He's still sitting in second position, but he's gone to about 1.8 seconds out to 4.2. The last time around, Kenny Humpy beat it by half a second, and the lap before that beat it by 0.7 of a second. And Brandon Hawk may have gotten into the wall or has found some trouble in that machine. Trying to take a look, the right side of the car does not really look torn up, so it doesn't look like he got into the wall with, you know, a lot of force, but something definitely wrong with the 53 machine. This time by the stripe scoring is going to update once again. It's going to go from 4.2 seconds to 4.6. So Brandon Hawk has severely lost touch with the race leader Kenny Humpy in these last 5 laps, and he's looking to stop the bleeding here and try to get back into a rhythm.
As they continue to work on lap number 98, Humpy 4.5 seconds ahead of Brandon Hawk, and you mentioned that gap in between them. The 58 of Humpy last time by 29.64 to Brandon Hawk's 30 flat. So there's 0.4 of a second that time by that Kenny Humpy gained. It's 5 seconds now between your top two. Rich Doucette running all alone right now in position number 3, like he has been most of this race. He hasn't had a whole lot of company in front of him or behind him. Very quiet right now for Rich Doucette, Justin Trombley, and Chris Overland. complete your top 5 with Alex Warren and PJ Sturgis just chasing down that 47 in positions 6 and 7 respectively. We're going to come up this time by on lap 100, so we are 2/3 of the way home on LSRTV. Once again, we want to thank Double Clutch for bringing us the broadcast this evening. You can check them out at winonmonday.com, and you can get all the information on the cool, innovative programs that Double Clutch is coming up with, and there's some cool things you want to watch for in the 2014 year. So that's winonmonday.com. Go over there, bookmark that, and be sure to keep checking back.
Definitely, for sure. Now 5.5 seconds is the gap from first and second between Kenny Humpy and Brandon Hawk. Meanwhile, 21 cars remain on the lead lap at this point. Currently, your lucky dog would be the driver of the 3 machine, Brandon Schmidt. If you remember, Brandon Schmidt was in this title hopes and was in there in that battle with Chris Overland up until a black flag last week at Watkins Glen that was not cleared by the race officials. Ended up him losing the lap, and at a road course where there's no hope of a caution, pretty much dashed his championship hopes, and really not doing too well tonight, running in 22nd. The last car on the lead lap, Brandon Bowie in the 54 machine. He's sitting in 21st place rather, in the 54 machine, 29 seconds back from race leader Kenny Humpy, and he's about to lose his lap as he sees that 58 climbing up in that rear view windshield.
And Mitchell Hunt has officially retired from this race, so he will finish 32nd this evening. Shane Miller and Charlie Foster both out of the race as well in 33rd and 34th place respectively. We have Brandon Hoff 5 laps down. We've got 3 drivers that are 2 laps down right now. That's Brad Mahar, Alex Scribner, and Jeremy Lukaska. We have a half dozen or so that are 1 lap down, and as you mentioned, Brandon Bowie about to join them in the number 54 car as Humpy works underneath in the 58 to put him 1 lap in the rear. So we have 20 drivers now on the lead lap, including Billy Price in the 56 car. Billy Price, next driver to go 1 lap down, but he's on Dylan Duval, and he almost sent the 42 for a ride in the middle of 1 and 2. Oh, wow. That was close quarter racing. I don't think it gets any closer than that. I'm pretty sure Dylan Duval had to hold his breath there in the GX Gaming number 42 because that was almost close, and I'm sure Kenny Humpy is seeing this in the windshield.
Yeah, the 56 got into the back of the 42 and got sideways, and these guys, again, back at the rear end of the lead lap. You were talking about Dylan Duval would easily get a top 5 finish, or would be projected to get a top 5 finish here tonight, and was running good in the opening laps of this race, but just another driver that has not had the luck here once we've ticked off a bunch of laps, and he now finds himself at a 42 machine. You mentioned at the tail end of this lead lap in 19th position, so a lot of comers and goers in this race at this point.
Okay, we have a special guest, and usually when we do this, we have a caution or two. Brian Schoenberg is with us, and I see Mike Conti might be up there as well. We might have to bring Mike in. But Brian, driver of the number 55 in the Nascar iRacing.com Series World Championship. Brian, I know you love this racetrack. What is it about New Hampshire that brings out great racing?
Well, Tim, first off, thanks for having me in here. I think the thing that makes New Hampshire so exciting is the weird line you have to run in this simulator, and you have to lean on each other and race each other really hard, and I don't know, it's just one of those tracks where you have to have a good driving car and you have to drive it right as well. If you just drive the wheels off it, you'll be junk, as you've seen by a lot of these comers and goers. Some of it's set up, some of it's driving. You look at Alex Warren, you know, he was leading earlier and he's back to 6th, but he's kind of been holding station there for a while. But you look at, I believe Duval's his teammate, correct?
Yeah, he there's a few of them there.
Okay, well, yeah, you see, Duval started right up there in 3rd, and he's back to 19th. I'm not just saying, you know, that's all driving. For all I know, they might not be running the same exact setup, but you can see how taking care of your car really makes a big difference. And, you know, I'm not trying to pick on Dylan, but as just an example, as I've been watching this race down here. But then it's been a lot of covers as well, like PJ Sturgis. He's been coming up through the field. Rob Ackley, Brian Blackford. It's been pretty interesting to watch, but, you know, you brought me in here hoping for a caution to spice it up, and so far it's not working.
Let's look at this series. You watch this series, you're a mainstay in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. What can you learn as a scouting report, per se, on some of these drivers? Are you taking any notes on, let's say, a Kenny Humpy who's lit it up the last 3 races and is about to, unless something mysteriously happens, win a 4th race this season? Are you taking any scouting reports or any tips or anything else that you can learn and maybe you can put in the head for next season?
Oh, for sure. When you look at Kenny Humpy, you go, gosh darn it, we have to race him because he's been really fast. Brandon Hawk's been really quick too. Chris Overland's been good. You know, you can go down the list, but definitely Kenny Humpy's on. Is it Hump or Humpy?
It's Humpy.
Okay, well, Humpy's been on everyone's radar, obviously.
Okay, we have Mike Conti in here as well, and I want to bring in Mike. You've won here at New Hampshire before. You've gone through this Pro Series before. You've been in these guys' shoes with 2 races to go. What are these guys going through? Looking at maybe a bubble perspective, how are these guys racing? Is it changing their mindsets a little bit here at New Hampshire, especially with this race going green?
Well, I mean, initially going in here tonight, I thought that we were going to have a lot of aggressive driving like we usually see here at DWC, and a lot of cautions too, and I thought it was going to be very exciting. But these guys, from the start of the race, they've really put on a great show, and they've showed why they've gotten to this level, because, I mean, this is one of the cleanest top-level races at New Hampshire I've ever spectated. But as far as what they're going through right now, it's very nerve-wracking, especially if you're around the top 20 position to lock your place for next year, and if you're going for that top 30 spot, because something's different. I haven't really figured that out yet, what we're doing for next year, but I think it's like top 20, top 30 or whatever. So if you're in one of those positions, it's really stressful. You know, you've got tonight, and especially if New Hampshire isn't one of your favorite tracks, it's tough to solidify your spot when you don't really like where you're racing. So we're crew chiefing for Jeremy Lukaska, and he's having a tough night, as you can see. He's a couple laps down now. He got turned before, so when your night starts off like his did, it just makes for a long 150 laps. But otherwise, I mean, it's been a great race. Humpy is showing why he's won 3 in a row and probably 4 if everything continues green here. And Hawk and Rich and everybody else, and Chris. I mean, Chris Overland, I cannot say enough about what he's done this year. He's been very consistent. He's been fast. He won that race a couple weeks back, and he's probably going to clinch the championship tonight if it stays like this. So these guys are great. They're a great group of pros, and they'll be a lot of fun to watch next year at DWC.
And you mentioned Jeremy Lukaska. He just blew a motor a couple laps ago. We had it on the replay there, and that's going to put probably Lukaska back to 31st at the end of this race. We have 30 drivers still running on this racetrack. And I know you guys last season had some teammates in this race. You had a Danny Hansen, you had a Carson Downs. Is there anybody, you mentioned Jeremy Lukaska, is there anybody else, Mike, you guys are helping out and possibly pointing in the right direction to try to get into this series next year?
No, not really. Toward the tail end of last year, we kind of fell off the radar a little bit. We weren't as fast, but I don't think that made us as attractive to give out any advice on how to be fast. We were pretty
That's
slow
a good
ourselves.
one.
So,
yeah,
right. So we didn't really know what was going on, so we couldn't really tell anybody else what was going on for this season, because I don't think we've still figured it out. So hopefully that changes for Brian and everybody else next year who runs from Jay's show. But I mean, Jeremy, he sponsored me last year with his Twitter handle, and I thought, as a nice way to kind of help him out this year, I'd give him a little bit of advice, and especially the beginning part of the season. I worked with him as far as driving and just some tips on how to handle these types of races, because the intensity level is extremely high, and it's a little bit different than your run-of-the-mill A-class race. So Jeremy's really been the one and only that we've worked with, but Chris Overland I've worked with in the past, and a few other people in here I've worked with, Alex Warren and Brandon Schmidt, who ran very well all this season until last week. His Duval almost crashes, but these guys know what they're doing. They really don't need me or Brian or anybody else to tell them what to do. They've pretty much got it figured out by now.
Yeah, Mike Conti just caught what we saw to the corner of our eye, the 42 and 56, and this has been brewing for about 15 laps or so. And
they've been going at it.
This could be mighty large if these guys have been going at it since they've been lapped, and the 56 almost sent the 42 in corner number 3.
What a swerve!
There it is. The 42 puts the brakes on in the 56.
That was a brake check there.
Something's going to happen here really large, and I'm sure Shannon is watching this. That's no caution right now, but I'm pretty sure if the 56 gets back up to him, Evan, that's probably going to be a yellow.
Yeah, we might see.
Hopefully Shannon's watching.
Yeah, the 54 Abu, he got a piece of that. He was behind these guys and smacked the back bumper of Price in the 56 machine, and I don't think this is done yet.
Before
We've
we
all
let
better
you
run.
guys go, and before this thing gets any larger, Brian, Mike, I want your thoughts on this 2014 season coming up. What are your plans? I know you guys, I know Brian's been teasing a new paint scheme and a new sponsor. Can we let anything out of the bag here tonight?
You're gonna kick us out already?
Well, you guys can stay, but this is getting exciting.
Well, the moment JD Layers from JDR Graphics paints our cars like we've been long awaiting, you will know.
So that's a little subliminal message to JD to get working instead of watching.
Pretty much,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, do you think he's listening at all to this?
He's probably listening, and if he's not, he probably has somebody else that's listening. I know Jordan Hightower listens to all the shows, so that's probably who it is. Do you know what a melted Barbie doll drives like?
No, but hopefully JD's pleased listening to us.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure he is. Melted Barbie doll is what the Landon Harrison car is driving like tonight. You've never driven any of those?
Maybe for like 4 or 5 races in DWC last year. Or drove like a bucket of, I can't say that.
No, you can't say that. I think Laura's got the bleep ready. And I know you guys, Chris Overland, you talked about it, Brian. He's one of those drivers that's come up through the ranks, an excitable driver, I guess we can call him. And he's on the verge right now. He needs to finish 6th in order to win this championship. And he's 5th right now. How big is this for Overland to win a championship like this?
Man, he does such a great job. I mean, he used to work with us for a couple months, I think back in 2012 when we first started J-Show, but aside from that, I've always just had a soft spot in my heart for that guy. I mean, he's a good guy. He tries really hard to be nice. He tries to be well-liked, and he's been doing a great job on the racetrack, and it seems like those guys at LRM have been the perfect fit for him, but he's just done a spectacular job, and it's got to feel absolutely amazing for him. I wouldn't know because I haven't been in the spot he's in right now, at least for winning a championship, you know, even in the Pro Series, but just hats off to him. I think he's going to be okay here, and I just feel really great for him because he's a really good person, and he deserves it. He's put on a great effort all season in the Pro Series, and I'm sure he's put a lot of time into that team and showing them he's around, so just hats off to him. I mean, what a great job he's done.
And the one thing we've been watching too, and I know Evan's been watching this as I have, the 56 of Billy Price got up to the back of the 42 again, and there was some chatter. Evan, I don't know if you caught it or not, but the 42 had said something to the 56 team. I didn't catch it. I don't know if you did or not, but it looks like the 42 maybe pulling away a little bit from that 56 now.
It didn't quite catch it. Billy Price dropped a couple car lengths back from Duval, pretty much the distance that you see right now, and I believe it was the 53 machine of Brandon Hawk P2 had to get around these guys and get through them. And Duval kind of let him go on the inside, and Billy Price really threw it into the corner, and I mean threw it into the corner, trying to get up, and got on the back bumper to Duval, and has since dropped back, probably having to do with the fact that he ran into the back of Duval, destroyed the front end, and ran over from the rear end. So the 56, a lot more torn up right now, as opposed to the 42 of Dylan Duval. Remember, both these guys are going at it for 19th place, and they're both a lap down.
And keep in mind, it looks like, looking at the points, 30th for Dylan Duval, 35th for Billy Price, and Billy Price has to get moving if he wants any sort of chance to lock himself into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship through those final 3 spots, or to retain his pro license. Want to get Brian and Mike's opinion on this too before we get any further, and we get possibly some cautions here at the end of this race. That Road to Pro that's coming up, it's going to be a 3-season long, I don't want to say power struggle, but there's going to be, I think, 20 spots to get into pro next season. I really wouldn't want to be in that situation as Billy Price comes onto pit road. So I guess the fight on the racetrack's over. But Road to Pro this season.
Well, first off, Billy Price there is paying a pretty big price for that contact. Sorry, I couldn't resist. The Road to Pro itself, it seems pretty insane. It seems like a really long time, Tim, no? Just to make the Pro Series?
It seems like a long time. The last few seasons have been the 10-week or 12-week season with the 2 drops to get yourself in, and now you have to focus on essentially what's going to be a 36-week season in order to lock yourself in. I think it's going to be a little bit of a ways to go, and there's going to be some talent in that to get into it, but you look at the guys that are going to be fighting for those final 3 spots that don't have to run that season. there's going to be a lot of talent in there as well, and that's why you see guys like a Billy Price, like a Dylan Duval, Justin Bolton's on the bubble, Shane Miller's in the bubble, Andrew Fayash III. There's a driver that's been in the series for the last 3 seasons. He's fighting for his life right now. Who do you see, Mike, coming out of this series that possibly, obviously, Kenny Humpy's going to be good. Anybody else you see that might have a chance at getting that championship?
I mean, there's so much talent, Tim. I mean, I could pretty much pick, really the top 5 right now. You got Humpy, Hawk, Doucette, Trombley, and Oberlin. Go back to 6 with PJ. Any of those guys, given the right cars and the right luck next year throughout the season, they could definitely be a threat. Alex Warren, he won the Pros Series championship a couple years ago, struggled last year, and won the pole tonight and looks like he's back on it again. So if he can carry that momentum into next year, he could also be a threat. But I mean, when you have guys like Joey Brown, Ray, and Tyler, Brian, all these
and
guys,
Brian, thank you,
and Brian, right? Even though you haven't won a race, you're always there, right? So, though I mean, you've got a lot of good people in DWC, and it's really a struggle the first couple of races in DWC when you're new. You really don't realize just by watching how good some of these guys are, and you get in there, you're like, oh my goodness, this is a lot harder than I thought. But I think if those guys, those 6 or 7 guys, Chad Lawton too, so that's 8. Those 8 guys can really acclimate themselves quickly to DWC next year. Those are 8 cars that could definitely win the championship.
I will make the note, though, we did have a first-time winner last season, and he went on to win the championship, and Brian's always in Homestead anyway, so you can collect a $10,000 check while you're there, right, Brian?
Might as well make it worth it, right?
Yeah. Why not? We're coming down on 20 laps to go, guys. I'm going to let you go. Before I let you go, though, you mentioned some of those sponsors, keeping them under wraps. Anybody you want to say hello to before we let you go?
Nah, not really. Hi to all the fans.
Well, you got to thank the fans.
Can't do that. Can't do that, Brian.
I thank the fans. Oh man, Alex Warren got really sideways there, guys. Go ahead, Conti.
Well, for both of us, Ryan, I think we need to thank Mike Main Performance PC, Chris from Abuto, for their continued support of the whole J Show crew, and myself and Brian and Danny last year and everybody else. So thank you to Mike Main for that. CB Photography and the Bethwood for sticking with me. And I don't know, Brian, do you have any other sponsors? I can't think of any right now. JD, right? Larry,
Nah, it depends if he gets the cars done. But yeah, JD. And Matt Salo, Pro Geek Consulting as well.
Yeah, you can't forget anybody, right?
No, I think we covered it there. And back to the races you go, Tim. It looks like there's a 3-way battle almost for 5th place now. Overland, Sturgis, Warren. Anyway, thank you.
Overland, Sturgis, Warren, and we also have Tyler Lawton, Trey Edson, Landon Harrison back there, 13, 14, 15, 51, 87, and 89. That's Brian Schoenberg and Mike Conti, by the way. You can watch them on the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship broadcast, the 5 and the 55. They'll be coming up in February. I believe the season starts at Daytona. The schedule hasn't been released yet, but that's usually when they start, and in late February. And of course, Brian sometimes joins us in the booth when he's suspended, but Brian is going to run all 18 races on the racetrack this year, right?
Well, I was able to do it last year, so let's try it again this year.
There we go. Brian Schoenberg and Mike Conti. And I know, Evan, we pointed out the 51 and 87. These guys have been going at it for a long while. T-Loff is a very excitable individual that drives that number 51 car. And I think 87 of Trey Edson and the 89 of Landon Harrison are trying to maybe spark a little bit of that fire, I guess we can call it.
Trey Edson, you talk about him in the 87. He's in 14th. He's another one of those guys that's been a cover-and-goer. Started in 4th. He finds himself back in 14th, so it's really been a contrast of guys that had a good start to their race and have kind of faded, and some guys not the strongest on the get and go but have really moved forward. But one thing that everybody can agree on is that Kenny Humpy at 58 has just been dominant, and this race is looking like it's going to fix to go without any cautions as we are approaching 10 to go, about 13 to go, or 12 to go rather, this next time by the start finish line. And take a look at everybody through the field. Brandon Hawk still finding himself in second. He's now starting to slowly tick off a 10th here or there. Like I mentioned, late in the going over, he lost touch with Kenny Humpy in that lap. But he had about 5 laps in a row where he lost like 4/10 every lap. And he just could not be back on a rhythm soon enough. And evidently, which has allowed Kenny Humpy to go away. And evidently, if there's not going to be caution, it's his race for sure. And Chris Overland, another story that we've been keeping an eye on tonight, the 47 championship points leader, needing the top 6. He's running in 5th. The 6th position car behind him, the 57 of PJ Sturgis, not too far back. Alex Warren in a relative close, about 1, maybe 2 seconds off of Overland, so it's not necessarily locked up, but as long as Overland, you know, just hits his marks and keeps her steady here in these closing laps, he's going to secure this championship.
Yeah, as you said, it's status quo. Nothing really changed since we were talking to Brian and Mike for those 20 laps or so. Humpy, Hawk, Doucette, Trombley, Overland, top 5, and then Sturgis, Warren, Lawton, Bolton, and Rob Ackley. And 22 car, Rob Ackley, you got to give that guy some credit. He has been running strong all night tonight, and last year started the season, missed the first 2 races of the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, really put himself in a hole, and now he's trying to claw himself back into that series for next season. Right now sitting in 16th, and the beauty of this is, Evan, is that the top 40 with those NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship licenses, they're going to be locked into every show next year. So if Rob Ackley can get into the top 20 in this series, it locks him into every single race next season. He doesn't have to worry about qualifying into the shows. So I'm sure Rob Ackley is trying his hardest in these last 2 races to make sure he's in the top 20. And it's great to see him up in the top 10 in the closing laps of this race. It's not going to lock him into the series at this point, but it's going to come mighty close to solidifying his spot in the series, as we are coming down this next time by to 8 laps to go, and the 58 of Kenny Humpy is in heavy lap traffic. We talked about that 51, 87, 89 battle. It now includes the 58, but it includes 58 because the 58 is going to put these guys a lap down.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Kenny Humpy is approaching them as they're side by side. In front of him, the 89 of Landon Harrison on the inside of the 87 of Trey Edson, almost 3 wide as the 37 of Stephen Gilbert merges back out onto the racetrack, and more side by side up in front of them, the 30 of Robert Hall and the 51 almost making it 3 wide. That's T-Loft in the 51. You were talking about an exciting driver. So these guys are definitely going for it back here at the tail end of the lead lap. Only 15 drivers remain on the lead lap at this point, but the 58 of Humpy is there, and these guys are going for it bumper to bumper. So Kenny Humpy's got to watch what's going on in front of him.
And I'm sure Landon Harrison has one of his spotters, and one of his spotters is 2-time champ Ray Alfala. I'm sure Ray is in his ear saying, you got to get going, because if not, you're going to get lapped. And he's got the leader right behind him right now. He's got the 87 of Trey Edson in front of him, trying to put the moves on T-Loff in the 51 as they come by this time, 6 laps remaining. And at this point, Kenny Humpy can just sit there and ride. And you can't say sit there and ride for the fact that he's got Stephen Gilbert right behind him. He's got Cody Bias right behind him. And those guys are going to want to get up here, albeit Stephen Gilbert's 2 laps down. Cody Bias would be on the same lap as Landon Harrison, Trey Edson, without that leader being there. These guys are going to want to go and go in a hurry, but Kenny Humpy has 5 seconds in between him and the next driver in line. 5 laps to go at New Hampshire, and for Chris Overland, it's 5 laps away from locking up a title in this 2014 Pro Series season.
Race leader Kenny Humpy now finds himself on the inside of the 89 machine of Landon Harrison down the back straightaway. So Landon Harrison going to lose a lap here to your race leader Kenny Humpy, who, despite hanging back and not really rushing getting around this lap traffic, has still maintained that 5-second lead that he has over the second place race car Brandon Hawk. And this time by the start finish line, Kenny Humpy going to take lap number 147. So that is 4 laps to go in this race. So evidently, if a caution were to fly at this point, doesn't matter, race would be over and end under the yellow flag. So pretty much green flag all the way, and 4 more laps and it will be green flag all the way, assuming we don't have a caution in these closing laps. I've been keeping a little bit of an eye on Dylan Duval and Billy Price. They're about, I don't know, you want to say 2 seconds apart of each other after Billy Price came down the pit lane. So I don't see them making any trouble here unless it happens after the race. So all eyes up top on 58 of Humpy as he's behind another lap traffic car, last car on the lead lap, the 87 of Trey Edson, as Chris Overland has since dropped back to 6th position on the racetrack, but has a little bit of insurance over Alex Warren, about a second lead, hanging on to that spot that he needs to clinch the title.
And unless somebody runs out of fuel in these last 2 laps of this race, the only battle within the top 10 is Chad Lawton and Justin Bolton. That's 26 and 36 at 8th and 9th place. They run nose to tail right now. Everybody else is not relatively close within the top 10. You have Blackford, Hall, and T-Loff and Edson running nose to tail. back from 11th on back, and that's actually behind your leader, or in front of your leader, check that right now, of Kenny Humpy. This clump will come up on the white flag this time by. 1 lap to go for the 58 of Kenny Humpy in the NRT servers, number 58, as he's got that battle in front of him, and those all-important points for those drivers that are running for the top 20 in this series. They got to get going. They're going to have 1 more lap, though, to settle this out, because Kenny Humpy in the 58 right now, he's going to let these guys go unless he's out of fuel in the 58. He's just going to let those guys go. He's still under power, and the 58 of Kenny Humpy in the NRT servers, Chevrolet SS, comes up at a 4. He wins 4 in a row in the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series. Humpy wins at New Hampshire. Brandon Hawk comes home in position number 2. Rich Doucette under power in position number 3. He'll come up and finish in 3rd. Trombley, Sturgis, and unofficially your 2013 NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series champion, Chris Overland in position number 6. Warren, Lawton, Bolton, and Ackley complete your top 10. And unofficially, we say that unofficially, he is your 2013-14 iRacing Pro Series champion, Chris Overland. Those points still have to be tabulated. Of course, it's all unofficial until it goes through the iRacing officials. But Overland unofficially right now a Pro Series champion.
And it's really a story of consistency that's going to get Chris Overland there, only picking up 1 win in these first 9 races. Obviously, next week's going to be the season finale at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So, in all the races that we've won so far, he picked up 1 W, and that was at Pocono. But that really doesn't tell the tale of his season. He's been solid top 10s all season long. And how about Kenny Humpy, man? That 58 machine, back to back to back to back now at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That makes it Michigan, Richmond, Watkins Glen, and now New Hampshire. 4 in a row in the Pro Series is outstanding and almost unheard of. Kenny Humpy in the 58, but nonetheless a solid effort by all the drivers, because, Tim, we went green flag and no yellow flags for the 2nd race in a row, but I mean, the road course really doesn't count. They had their incidents there, so I'm going to call it as the first race all season that did not have a caution.
First NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series oval race that has gone green since Richmond in December of 2012. So it's been over a year since we went green in this series. But nevertheless, it's Kenny Humpy celebrating as your winner. We're going to step away for just a few moments' time. We're going to catch our breath. We'll catch up with your top 5 and your unofficial champion, Chris Overland, after this. Welcome back to the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series coverage on LSRTV, presented by Double Clutch. Check them out at winonmonday.com, and there's some pretty cool stuff coming up in the coming months from Double Clutch. Be sure to check them out. Go bookmark winonmonday.com right now, because you're going to want to get over there and you're going to want to see what goes on here in this 2014 calendar year. Kenny Humpy is our winner. He goes for 4 in a row. And this, I don't want to say it's getting old hat, Kenny, but once again, 4th win in a row at New Hampshire. And you really set the tone on those long runs.
Yeah, you know, it's pretty unbelievable. I didn't expect to even come close to winning here. We were kind of behind on the setup coming in, and we threw something together today that me and Rich were working on, and it paid off pretty big there. And I couldn't believe how much more drive off we had on them long runs compared to everybody else. But it all paid off, and we got 4 in a row. It's hard to believe.
And with the series races that we had at the start of the season, especially on the shorter ovals where we had caution, how much of a surprise is this to go green to checker caution-free?
Oh, it's a huge surprise. I think everybody did a good job out there tonight, you know, to go caution-free. This is probably one of the hardest places to do it, just because the line we have to run here, there's only one way to get around here, and if you're out of that groove, your car just doesn't drive right. And everybody did a hell of a job and stayed off each other, and it seemed like everybody was getting each other room and everything. But no, that's a hell of a job by everybody in the series to go here caution free. It's one of the toughest places to do it for sure.
Now, looking at this mathematically, unofficially, you're going to come close to locking up 2nd in the championship. Chris Overland, at this point, by our mathematical calculations, is unofficially locked up the championship as long as he gets to the racetrack next week, and as long as there's no other penalties or no other thing like that. So how big is the emphasis next week going to be on going 5 for 5 at Charlotte?
Oh, you know, we're not worrying about points or anything. We'll be able to go in there and just give it all it has and hopefully get lucky and maybe go for the 5th one in a row. But I didn't think we'd even get to 3 in a row or 2 in a row or anything. Just happy to win one of these things. So, but, you know, can't thank all them guys enough to help me out, and we'll see what happens, though. But Chris did a hell of a job the whole season. He was the most consistent driver for sure, and he deserves that championship.
We had Brian Schoenberg and Mike Conti in here in the last third of the race, and we were talking about guys to watch for next season. How big of a statement is this sending to those NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship drivers with winning 4 in a row in this series, saying that I'm here to party, I'm here to win, I'm here to take away this championship? How big of a statement is this making towards that next season?
I don't know how big of a statement it is to say, but hopefully we're ready when we go start off at Daytona and for the DWC. I'm just glad to be able to make it in. It's been a while since I've actually had a chance to try for pro, and just happy to make it in. And hopefully you got to have a lot of things go right to even have a shot at it. And the way these past 4 or 5 races have been going, it's just been unreal. And just got to put together 18 of them next year and hopefully have a shot at it going into them last couple races, and you never know. It's just hard to say.
You've got some great sponsors and some great teammates that help you out to get to the track each week. Who makes it happen for you?
Yeah, you got NRT Game Servers. They're on board still. All them guys, Dave and Scott and them guys that run there, they're awesome people. Also have Inside Sim Racing. They do a lot for the community and everything, and can't thank those guys enough. As well as you guys for broadcasting all these races. I know you guys don't have to do it, and you guys put it on each week and do a hell of a job, so I got to thank you as well.
That's Kenny Humpy, 4 for 4 in the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series. And Evan, you've caught up with a driver that has finished 2nd here this evening and put on a hell of a show trying to get to that 1st place position.
And that's right, we're down here on the pit lane with the driver of the number 53 machine, Brandon Hawk, going to bring it home in P2. Brandon, you had a pretty solid car coming into the night's race, qualified 5th. What were you thinking coming in there to take the green flag?
I was just thinking I was going to take it easy for the first couple laps, meaning that it's more of a short track kind of style of driving, and just save what I had. And I was going to try to run something I felt comfortable with, and it seemed to pay off. The car was really good on the long runs, and I really couldn't complain at all about it.
Definitely worked your way up to 2nd place and eventually started the chip away at Kenny Humpy. Got it down to 1.4 seconds before the green flag pit stops. You left pit lane almost just a second behind him, and there was a group of laps there where you lost nearly 3-4 seconds. What went wrong there at the that middle portion of the race?
Well, seeing as I was in second and a little bit behind Humpy, I figured that I'd do a little bit of saving. I went into pit road easier. I didn't want to mess anything up, get any pit road penalties. And when I got out there, since I pitted a little bit early, playing it safe too, I knew I had to save a little bit of fuel to make the whole run. And throughout the whole section there, I was running 3/4 throttle and letting off early, and just had everyone on the radio dialing in the numbers, just telling me when I was good. And even towards the end there, when we came down to those last few laps, when Kenny was about 5 seconds ahead of me, I knew I didn't have him, and I was about a gallon to the good, but I just decided to save it anyway. There was no point in wrecking the car.
And definitely in walking at it tonight with a second place finish after you entered tonight 20th, so that was right on the bubble in those championship standings. We're getting locked into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship races, as opposed to having to be one of those 3 cars out of 10 positions 21st through 30th in this series to qualify into each race. A solid second place finish has got to help with that and give you a little bit more insurance than you had tonight going into the season finale at Charlotte and try to lock up that top 20 in the points.
Oh yeah, it was really important as a driver for your confidence to get a second place tonight, to chip away that many points. That was a really big deal for me. So going into Charlotte, it's not so stressful. So hopefully I won't mess up or do anything too stupid and just take her home.
And definitely, this is the first oval race since Richmond last year that we saw green flag from the start to the finish and no cautions in between. Was that really what you were anticipating coming into tonight's race?
You know, every time I've tried to anticipate something going into one of these races, I've completely been entirely wrong. Like, every time we have a long green flag run, I'm expecting to have cautions. Every time you expect to have a long green flag run, it seems a caution comes out, and it's just caution after caution, and you can't really anticipate anything other than you got to keep bringing home in one piece, and you got to stay out of trouble.
And definitely, who makes it happen for the 53 Machine sponsors? Shout-outs to Mike's all yours.
I got to give a big shout-out to RaceBoost.com. They've been helping me out since I started, and they're really an awesome sponsor and keeping me motivated to, even when I was down in the points, pretty low in the standings, to keep going. And, you know, things have turned around, so a huge shout-out to them. I also got to thank my team, High Performance Motorsports, Mitchell Hunt, Josh Berry. You know, they always come up with some great pieces, and they're great teammates to work with. Also, I got to thank my spotters, Chad Coleman and Malik Ray. They did an awesome job tonight. Couldn't have done it without them.
And definitely 10-4. Congrats on the second place finish, and good luck next week when we go to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll be looking for the 53 to lock up that top 20 in points.
Thanks.
Tim, I now do believe you're caught up with our third place finisher, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, we are going to go to a very special guest. Chris Overland has unofficially locked up the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series Championship, and he is down trackside with Brian Schoenberg.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, I present to you your 2013 NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series champion, Chris Overland. Chris, way to go, buddy.
Hey, man, thanks. I don't know what to say.
What's it feel like?
It
Start clapping. Thank you.
It feels unreal. It's hard to actually believe with the absolute unbelievable run that Kenny's gone through that I'm the one getting the championship. But I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Well, you got to look at it this way. The whole season is built up over every single race, not just, you know, what have you done for me lately? It's sort of a whole season type of deal. And, well, you ran the whole season. You came out on top. Talk about, first off, before we go into the championship, talk about this whole race tonight, how your night went. Tell the fans and everyone else what it feels like to drive 150 or so laps around New Hampshire caution-free.
Well, I'm not moving my arms right now because it kind of hurts too. I will admit that. I'm not the strongest guy on the field. I'll tell you that much. The race tonight was good. I didn't qualify where I expected to, but it wasn't for lack of trying. So I gotta apologize formally to Brad Mahar. I tried getting a hold of him during the race, but I guess I was on the wrong TeamSpeak channel or something. When I got into him entering 3, I just misjudged the braking point and got into him, and I broke his car, ended his run. So I really feel bad about that, first of all. And second of all, this car was incredible. PJ Sturgis came on today, 2 hours before the race. Say, hey guys, try this. And I kind of blindly trusted him, and that guy... I mean, a lot of people credit Joey, and I will credit Joey far beyond what anybody else will, but PJ put together a really good piece for this week and the week before, and I might not be sitting right here if it wasn't for him and any of those guys the last row.
Yeah, PJ was flying during that race, man, especially with it being caution-free. I know he got right up there into the top 5, you know, the last 10 or 15 laps. But, you know, I've known you for quite a while, and just to see what you've done throughout the Pro Series has been really amazing to watch. I mean, you were so consistent, so clean. Talk about the team itself so all the fans can hear what a great functioning race team functions like.
Well, a lot of us just do our own thing, and when it comes time to practice, we sit down and we go. We don't waste time doing anything that's, you know, pointless. I mean, a lot of people would say we spend too much time on it, and I will be the first to admit that. But when you get a group of people who just get along and don't get involved in anything that's unnecessary, it's really fun. And I mean, those guys are probably the greatest team I've been on. Unfortunately, I've been on a team with you, Brian, so don't take any offense to that. You're probably second, but they're a great group of guys.
I'm happy for you, man.
I appreciate it. Just real quick, I don't want to take up all your time. I want to thank Double Clutch, Eddie and Jen Walzik, everybody behind that. They've been the biggest help in my sim racing career, and I'll say that for as long as I can remember. And I know Eddie's probably watching right now. I want to give him a big shout out. Guys, check the iRacing forums for the online World Series of Stock Car Racing. Starting pretty soon here.
Well, you started to thank some people there, so you kind of derailed my whole master plan here, but not really. It's still good. You can say what you want. You're the champion right now. So this, after a long road, you've had so many, I'm not going to say a ton of ups and downs, but, you know, everyone has their ups and downs, and you've overcome, well, you've overcome a lot of those downs, and you've done a great job. I want you to talk about what it feels like, not only to win this championship, but just thinking about running DWC in a couple weeks and everything else, and what do you think about that? Are you ready to go after it again? I'm sure you are, because, I mean... The deal is, once you win this Pro Series title, I noticed a lot more people, you know, pay attention to that person when they get back into DWC. You think you'll be able to handle it? Personally, I think you will be.
Well, racing against people like you and Ray and Tyler is going to be difficult. And, first off, running DWC in itself is difficult. I remember my first go-around. It was not easy for me. So, I don't know, but with the help of Last Row, I didn't know I was going to be Pro Series champion. I had no idea that this was going to happen. So you never know. But I'm prepared. I'm ready to go. If there was a race in 20 minutes, I'd be signed up for it. I'd be ready. Yeah, I'm just grateful to come this far. I know I've been sim racing for almost 5 years now, so to get a championship and get something out of it, this definitely feels good.
Well, Chris, again, from the bottom of my heart, congratulations. We got to commentate a little bit of the race earlier, and I said I always have a soft spot for you in my heart, and that's totally true, man. You do just a great job, and I couldn't be happier to see you as the Pro Series champion and winning that Pocono race. I was cheering for you when you won that, too. So I'm a fan of yours, actually. You might have said before you're a fan of mine, but I'm a fan of yours. So, please, if you could, I'm going to wrap this interview up. If anyone else has anything for you, I'm sure they'll cut in and interrupt me here. But who else do you want to thank? Who else makes it happen for you? And once again, congratulations.
First off, I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank whoever decided to get you in the booth to interview me. It's really pumped me up. And just all the guys at Last Row, Double Clutch. Let me try not to forget anybody here. All the guys at Sim Racers Garage watching right now. I know they're all watching. So thanks to them. Grover Distributors, JD Laird for painting this awesome car that's probably going to be coming back for DWC. If I'm forgetting anybody, I'm sorry. I'll try to get you in next week if I can. But just thanks to all you guys. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is your 2013 Pro Series champion, Chris Overland. Now I'm going to send it to someone. I really don't know who else is here. Tim, where are you? Tim?
I'm here. I'm down here with Rich Doucette, driver of the number 96, coming home in position number 3. And Rich, we talked about you during the race where it seemed like for most of that run you were running by yourself, but consistently clicking off laps and coming home with a third place finish.
It was a pretty good run. Once I got by the 42 car there early in the race, he seemed to be a little bit of a rolling roadblock for everyone. So I got by him pretty quick, fortunately for me. And then after that, got about a 4-second gap next to the next group, and we just kind of rode there, made sure we made it on gas, and a pretty good, easy, clean race. Pretty stress-free.
How tough was it to look at that pit strategy and possibly trying to conserve fuel for a couple of laps and wondering and banking on a caution maybe at the end of the race? How did that strategy work out for you?
Well, I looked down about halfway through that run, about lap 40, and I said to Kenny, we better start saving some gas. We're going to be a little light. And so from that time on, we just started getting off, letting off in the corner real easy and letting it roll a lot. So it worked out. We saved enough gas. We didn't have to lose too much time on the track. We were still able to run pretty decent times, even saving a little gas. So it was good. Kenny came up with a great setup right before the race. I've been giving him crap all week because I said everything he made sucked. And it turned out he made a race winner and got me in P3. So I got to thank him for that.
Now, I don't have the official numbers in front of me right now, but I would say you're pretty darn close to clinching your NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship license. If that's the case, what do you go into for a mindset next week at Charlotte, knowing that you may have clinched this spot in the series? Do you go for broke? Do you do you learn anything for next week? What's the mindset going in? Does the testing change at all? What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, we'll test just as hard for this track as any time. I think I can still pull off top 3 or 4 in the points, and every position's worth a little bit more in iRacing credit. So we'll work hard on that. Maybe try to get Kenny 5 in a row to end the season. It's a real tough break for him. I think he would have had a real good shot at the championship. Obviously, had he not had so many mistakes and bad fortune early in the year. But we'll go into Charlotte. Our heads held high. We'll work on a good setup. Probably be really fast. Good track for us. So I can really only look forward to it.
Now, you mentioned some of those teammates, and I know you got a couple of sponsors on the car as well. Who makes it happen for you each week?
First off, I'd like to thank you, Tim, over at Tim's Corner Motorsports. There's a little bird in my ear that told me that there's some breaking news about some Canadian racing. If you want to go up to timscorner.ca, I believe a new track has opened up in your area, Tim. Reopened, anyways. So check that out. A little breaking news for Tim Perry. And also, Tim's looking to get to 1,500 likes over on Facebook. So if you go to Facebook and you search for, you just go to facebook.com/Tim's Corner, you give him a like. I believe when he gets to 1,500 likes, he'll be giving away, I want to say it's a $25 iRacing gift card. So hopefully we can get that by next week, the next race, and maybe if I finish top 5, we can do that right here on the air, Tim.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. So be sure to go over and go to facebook.com/Tim's Corner and like that. And once again, Rich Doucette coming home with a great finish this evening. 3rd place finish, very solid in the number 96 car. And sure, we'll see him up front next week when it comes to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. I don't see Justin Trombley down here, but I do see PJ Sturgis, driver of the number 57. Another one of those New England drivers coming home with a great finish here this evening. PJ, talk about your race.
Well, yeah, it was certainly the home track advantage tonight with 3 of us New England guys in the top 5. But yeah, that was definitely the kind of race I was looking forward to for the points, because I was falling way back there at the beginning of the season. But another top 5 this week really helped me out and pushed me up into 7th in points. So I'm definitely happy with how tonight went.
Seemed like the second half of the race, the traffic got strung out a little bit, but the first half of that race, it seemed like you were stuck around that hornet's nest for most of the opening laps of this race.
Yeah, it got real crazy back there for a while, and I know at one point I saw Chad going sideways in front of me, and I was ready to slam on the brakes and when everyone scattered, but luckily that didn't happen. Everyone kept it going straight, and more than anything, I never expected to see a caution-free race at New Hampshire, but the car was really good on the long runs, and it actually paid off for once tonight to have it go all green.
You mentioned the points. We don't have the numbers in front of us right now, but it looks like you're going to be just that little bit closer to getting up there and clinching your spot into that NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship for 2014. How much of a sigh of relief are you breathing right now heading into Charlotte?
Oh, after the way this season started out with 3 DNFs in a row, I never would have expected to be in this point with a race to go. So going into Charlotte, I know it's not one of my best tracks, but maybe I can try to learn a few things and see if I can maybe finish the season out strong.
I know you guys are going to have a championship party a little bit later on at LRM, but how big is it for Chris Overland and that team to come away with this championship tonight?
Oh yeah, that means a lot to all of us. Chris, he puts a lot of time into this during the week, and it certainly shows on the racetrack because he helps everybody out a lot, and really we all help each other out. So it's great to see him win the championship, and mostly for the team after all of the work we all put in together.
Another great run here this evening for this team. Who makes it happen for you, PJ?
Well, I'd like to thank my sponsors, simroom.com and Vision Racer. You guys got to check them out. They have all sorts of sim racing gear, from wheels and cockpits. Definitely some cool stuff, so be sure to check them out.
And that's PJ Sturgis coming home with another great finish here in the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series, coming home with position number 5. Evan Pasocco has lost his way somewhere, and I see Mike Conti coming back over here. We'll catch up with Mike for final thoughts. What did you think of this race, and what do we see next week at the Charlotte Motor Speedway to close off this season?
I think it was Brandon who said it. You can't really expect anything with these races, and I think all of us can safely say that we did not expect a caution-free race at New Hampshire. I've never seen one personally until tonight. So you would think at Charlotte, if we could go caution-free here, we could definitely go caution-free there. But I can assure you, it being the last race, bubble spots ready to be clinched, and second, third, fourth on back in the championship standings can still change hands next week. So there's going to be a lot of aggressive driving that maybe we didn't see tonight. You're going to have Billy Price and Duval going at it, I can guarantee you that. So that's going to be something to watch for. But it's going to be a great race. Charlotte's really fast. A lot of good action there, a couple lanes to utilize. So it'll be fun to watch, most definitely. I can definitely guarantee that.
And Brian, Mike mentioned it, there's going to be some iRacing credit on the line for guys second, third on back there a little ways. And with the super late model coming out, I'm sure those guys are going to be wanting to spend some iRacing credit on that new car coming out in a couple of months' time. But we look at this race, New Hampshire. I know you like this racetrack. It goes caution-free. We go to next week at Charlotte. You've been in that situation before where you go into a race and you're close to getting another position in the point standings. These guys got to be on edge in 7 days to close off this series.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Tim. It is going to be absolutely intense for some of those drivers. I've been in that position several times in the DWC series at Homestead, and it's really intense. You spend more time practicing. Then when you get in the race, you're just you really don't want to be disturbed. You just want to kind of do your thing, and whatever happens, happens. But definitely, this Pro Series has been unpredictable. Yet again, in the season, we have a very crazy short track race that just goes caution free the whole time. Last year it was Richmond. This year, New Hampshire. What will happen at Charlotte? I'm sure we'll get some cautions. Favors will be returned. And people will be cashing out trying to get some of their iRacing credits, like you were saying. So it's definitely going to be very interesting next week. But as far as tonight, Kenny Humpy, I mean, what can you say? 4 wins in a row, that's just absolutely incredible. But as impressive as that is, I don't want to take anything away from him. But the night still goes to Chris Oberlin. Congratulations again on the championship to him. And next week will be very entertaining, to say the least.
Indeed, it will be, and right now it's a party at Last Row Motorsports, and for Double Clutch, Chris Overland is unofficially your NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series champion. Of course, it's got to go through all the iRacing officials and make it official in all the avenues and whatsoever, but unofficially, Chris Overland is the champion. Once again, we want to thank Double Clutch and Eddie Walsick for coming on board. WinOnMonday.com is the place to go. Bookmark that if you're a short track fan, if you're a racing fan, that's the place you're going to want to be in the 2014 season. And they also have, as Chris mentioned, the online World Series of Stock Car Racing coming up at the end of this month as well. And, just a few days away, I believe it kicks off as well. So go over WinOnMonday.com, place to go. For everybody here at LSRTV, Laura Lawson, Evan Pasoko, and Brian Schoenberg and Mike Conti, my name is Tim Terry. We'll see you next week when we say, let's go racing from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Keep the hammer down, and we'll see you at the track.